like to welcome you all over the globe who have come here on Facebook Live so today what we're going to do is have a conversation between me and Avinash. We're going to talk upon the importance of social and emotional intelligence uh, in current times, what we have come to know as COVID-19. And of course, they are living in uncertain times, learning with new terminologies like safe distancing and what is the new normal, flattening the curve, and other aspects. So we thought that me and Avinash have been good friends. And of course, here I will take the opportunity to introduce Avinash, and I'm going to be partial to Avinash because I've known him, and he's actually uh, a leadership and business guru. And of all people in the world or in the universe, he's been also been involved in teaching the Dalai Lama's team on happiness. So that's like preaching to the Pope, Navinash, and been invited for breakfast with Obama, President Obama while he was there, and various other US officials and many other people over the globe. And now, and I'm upset with him about that, he's spending more time outside India, especially in Europe and other countries, teaching them how to do the happiness quotient and delivering on that. So, Avinash, you have to say some nice things about me too. Over to you.
Yeah, of course, Manoj. I'm so happy to be doing this with you, and I'm amazed because we're talking about emotional intelligence and social intelligence. I'm impressed with your digital intelligence, huh? And I love Manoj's philosophy, which he always shares with me. He says, "What do you say, Manoj? If I remember right, you say ever learning and ever giving." Huh? And your
Yeah.
networking pro that you are is because of this philosophy, I think, huh? Because you're so humble, at the same time you're always giving, and every time I meet you, you introduce me to some friend and you say, here's my dear friend, and I wonder how can so many people be dear friend, and then I realize that they are. So congratulations. Manoj is a fantastic human being. Happy to have him as a friend. I met you, Manoj, through my
Thank you.
father, huh? The
Oh, yeah, man.
Indo-American
Yeah,
Society, huh?
that's
And
what.
you've worn so many hats since then. Right now, you are the chairman of the U.S. India the association, right? When the trade association there, and I understand that your work spans over 24 countries now. You're working very closely with trade industry, both in the U.S. as well as in South Africa now at the senior level. You've been involved along
Yeah.
with Dr. Kulin Kothari on that artificial intelligence project. I know where you do so much philanthropic work. Huh? So fantastic. Happy to be here with you.
Yeah, so thank you for your kind words, Avinash. And yeah, fond regards to your dad. I told him I hope you're tuning in today to listen to us, and he
Yeah, I have
promised
no
that
clue
he.
who's tuning in because you have that list in front of you, right? But hello to everybody who's here.
So I am going to, basically, as we talked about the social intelligence, which I will touch upon later, we'll
Sure.
talk about the EI and EQ. So why is the term which I mentioned, and Daniel Goleman has made it popular, the term emotional intelligence, and he mentioned that the success largely what we attribute earlier days we used to do it IQ, a lot of cognitive intelligence, but now why is it the EI, what we call it as, is becoming so, shall I say, fashionable or acceptable? And can you just share your views on that?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's an excellent topic for now because uh, everyone has emotions and everyone has relationships, huh? And both of these are getting strained in these challenging times, huh? The relationships mostly because either people are too much in confined spaces and they never thought they would spend so much time together, or they are too far away from each other, they miss each other, they don't know how to handle that part. And the emotions, of
Mhm.
course, are involved where people don't know what to do with their time, with their fears, with their anxieties. So this topic is fantastic. Great choice, Manoj. As far as emotional intelligence is concerned, you're absolutely right. Daniel Goleman only popularized it through his book. Huh? And then after that, Daniel Goleman himself wrote another book on social intelligence. Originally, a lot of these things Alfred Binet was the guy who first came up with the whole concept of intelligence and IQ, intelligence quotient, which Howard Gardner is the father of multiple intelligence theory. See, all these guys, they actually take it from somewhere else and then they add something to it and make it their own. Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence theory is nothing but what is there in Sri Aurobindo's integral self philosophy. Which is there in the Vedas and the Upanishads, which essentially means that every individual is intelligent, but the intelligence can be of different types. Howard Gardner came up with 9 different intelligences. So, with emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman talks about 4 aspects. 2 of them are about the self, and 2 of them are about others. The 2 about the self are, one is about how to be aware of your own emotions. Many people are not aware of what they are feeling themselves or why they are feeling what they are feeling. And the second is how to regulate your own emotions. So, how to be aware of your own emotions and how to manage or regulate your own emotions. Then the other 2 are what fall under social intelligence, which is how to be aware of other people's intelligence, which is the empathy part of it. And the last one is how to regulate or influence positively other people's emotions, which it is possible to do. So, what Daniel Goleman said also is that these last 2, which is about others, is a separate science which is called social intelligence, which studies the connection between the brain and relationships. Emotional intelligence is about the connection between the brain and emotions. So, this essentially is the difference between the 2. It's very interesting.
Shall I have a point is, so
Please.
somewhere it was mentioned triumph of heart over the head. Is that where the connection comes from in that
I, I
aspect?
think I think it's very interesting what you said, and if you're game, we can try out a little quiz with your people and have them respond to you because I cannot see what they're responding. Which is more powerful, the elephant? Just a fun quiz. Which is more powerful, an elephant or a mahout? You know, the guy who sits on the elephant to ride the elephant. Which one is more powerful? What would you say, Manoj? Which is more powerful, the elephant or the mahout?
Sorry.
Is the elephant? Is an elephant?
Am I audible? Am I
Yeah, yeah,
audible
no,
now?
yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Is my voice coming through?
Yeah. Fine.
Okay.
Sorry. So can you repeat that again?
I said, which is more powerful? Is an elephant more powerful? Elephant? Or is a mahout, the guy who sits on the elephant, the rider of the elephant? Is the rider more powerful? Which one do you think is more powerful?
Obviously, the answer is, obviously the Mahout is more powerful.
Right. So I think there's a little bit of a disturbance in the voice, but that's okay. Uh, yeah, your voice is gone, Manoj. But for those of you who are watching, and if you can still hear me, we get different answers, man. Elephant is more powerful. Mahout is more powerful. I cannot hear you now, Manoj.
Disturbance. Yeah.
Now I
Once
can hear you. Now I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you, Manoj.
unmute. Is it okay now?
Perfect now. Perfect.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
So,
So I was talking about the Mahout thing. Yeah.
yeah. So the analogy is, different people say different things. The analogy is that the Mahout is the logical mind, and the
Mm-hmm.
elephant is the emotional mind. Uh,
Oh.
because there was, the mind is the mind because apart from the gray matter, the other matter, there is also neurons which interact with each other. So there's a cluster of neurons in the
Sure.
brain, but they found that the mind is not really restricted to the brain. There are also cluster of
Mm-hmm.
neurons in the heart. And there's a study done
Mm-hmm.
by the Institute of Heart Math in California, where they say that the cluster of neurons in the heart, they give out 5,000 times more electromagnetic energy than the neurons in the brain, which means the heart is 5,000 times more powerful in physical energy terms. So they talk about gut feeling, they talk about emotional intelligence. So what they say is that the heart has a brain of its own. It's very interesting the kind of studies that are being done. Yeah. So
So
the
that's
question of
another one,
which
but
is
I would
more
like to interject
powerful
here.
in physical terms, this is more powerful. No? The heart is more powerful.
God.
But in terms of being able to regulate it, ideally the mind should be trained to regulate or take care of the heart so that the elephant doesn't go berserk. No?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Interesting.
we know the most intelligent of people, when they get angry, they don't remember all the good lessons that they give to other people, because it's like an emotional
That's a good
hijack.
point. But here I would like to, because I was reading somewhere
Yeah,
that generally as human beings, we are hardwired to see the negative aspect.
yeah,
And mostly they say another thing is that average human mind gets 60,000 thoughts a
yes,
day, and 80 to 85% are negative. So what I wanted to ask you, and of course in today's time when we are sitting at home, we don't know what's going to go on. The lockdowns are shifting, and
sure.
people are uncertain with times of what's going to happen for people with jobs, what is going to happen, so it's across the spectrum. Never have we found globally, as they say, everybody is literally on their knees,
Hmm,
governments, people, human
sure.
beings, and they're very concerned. So how does one, so my question was, is EI or emotional quotient a learnable skill? Can we,
Absolutely.
how do we do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
See, one thing we say is that everybody has emotional intelligence. So everybody has all the intelligences. So what do we do with it? Some of them have a little more, some of them have a little less. So can it be
Mm-hmm.
learned? The answer is absolutely yes. There is a new science
Mm-hmm.
called, not new, it's an emerging science called neuroplasticity, which says that the brain at any age can learn anything. In fact, we were talking about that a little earlier. The ability today to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Anything at
Mm-hmm.
any age is absolutely possible, and in fact, it is vital for survival. Similarly, for
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence, people think, oh, it's not possible to change a person's personality. It's not possible. It is possible if we first believe that it's possible, and secondly, if we do the required things to make it possible. So, and it can be possible. There's a beautiful sentence that it would be great for your viewers to write down. If you change the way you see things, if you
Mm-hmm.
change the way you see things, the things you see will
Mm-hmm.
change. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's all a matter of perspective. So, for example, people
Right.
say, I'm stuck at home. So we say, are you stuck at home or are you safe at home? Okay. It's a matter of
Good
perspective.
one.
Yeah.
Correct.
Or people, they say that, oh my God, no. So how do you change a person's negative perspective to a positive one? One of the most
Yeah.
powerful ways that I found is by asking yourself the right questions. If people say, why me? Then they will get some negative answer. If they people say,
Are you
you
talking
know,
about
why
shifting
again this?
from the victim? So are you talking about not having the victim mentality and shifting that course? Is that what we're talking about?
That's one of the things, but it's also about a specific technique about asking yourself questions which will focus your mind to having the responsibility mentality or the conqueror mentality. The questions can change the mentality because everybody says be positive, don't have victim mentality, but people want to know how. So one of the ways how is you can ask yourself three questions I find are very powerful. Number one is what's good about this? So in any situation, if people ask themselves, what is good about being locked down here? I have more time. Okay. I can connect with people who I have not met for a long time. One question, what is good about this? The second question, what can I learn from this? Huh? And the third question is, what should I do to keep myself occupied, or what should I do to prepare myself? What is my responsibility? What should I do to make things better? So three questions: what's
Mhm.
good about this? What can I learn from this? And what could I do to make things better? So, for example, I would love to ask you, Manoj. You were sharing with me, with all your experience with people and networking with people. Now you are, when we are at home, we are. Most people conventionally would think that is not working. Huh? But is not working a good time for networking? How
So
could we
it's a
make
good question. So
it?
let me be very honest. When they just started, the first 2 to 3 days, I honestly felt, because just to give you a little, my
Yeah.
friends and those who are watching, a little background in a more personal note, that I used
Please.
to, and my kids were upset with me that I used to almost eat. So I took the author Never Eat Alone very seriously. Keith Ferrazzi was the author, and I
Uh-huh.
used to eat about 30 days in a year, that is 360 days dinner at home. So that's my was my love for meeting people and connecting and building relationship. So when this
Wow.
happened, and imagine lockdown, and I've not even stepped out of my house. So to be very honest, the first couple of days it was horrible. I felt, my God, is it the world going to end? And then, so it's like that curve which you talk
Yeah,
about. You start
yeah,
feeling, I don't know, this is not happening. I'm just being, honest about it. But then it moved on. Then I said, okay, now we are at home. What are the lessons learned? Easier than giving gyan. How do you adapt it yourself? How
sure.
do you reach out? So then I obviously went through my notes and what I usually do on a day-to-day basis. Then I used to do it in the real lifetime. Then I said, okay, here's a good point. Now suddenly the good aspect is everybody's at home. They can't say I'm not here. I'm traveling. Okay,
Right.
so let me, instead of just wishing on Facebook and WhatsApp, let me pick up the phone and say, hi, how are you? So
Uh-huh.
that way, I made a list of 10 people whom I could call every day. And
Wow.
I do that. So I said, let me call and say hi, going to old fashioned times. And you won't believe it. People said, oh, I love it. I wish we could speak more often because
Sure.
we were lost in this world of, running around. And now we realize, running around for what and other aspects. And we ignored a lot of those interpersonal skills. So that was point number one, again, learning and adapting. And then we realized that today's world, what is the biggest challenge? People are concerned and they also wanted to express themselves. So
Hmm.
especially I reached out to many of them and to again admit I was a very poor listener earlier. I wish to admit that. And I realized that there is something called as empathetic listening where one needs to adapt. So that's the learning again, sitting at home. What do you do? So I said, now when I'm listening to people, let them went off because it's not
Sure.
about that they want to just express themselves. So these are
Sure.
2 points and so picking up the phone. Also, what I realized is let us get off. There was, the first 3 days at least, I used to do that. Watch a lot of news, either on television, Twitter, Facebook, and most of them, the consumption of news was becoming very negative because,
Sure.
and also I realized for the first time in the universe, nobody has a clue of what's going on. So countries are grappling with the situation. So you talk to them, they will all give you a perspective. Some will talk about a conspiracy theory. We go all listening to all that. So what we realize is it's let me limit my news consumption, which again comes to your aspect of social,
Positivity.
emotional intelligence,
Sure.
positivity. Because when you're consuming negative things, then you're saying, "Oh my God, this is doomsday. I'm not coming out of it," and then you go into your downward spiral. So I can go on about that. We'll touch upon that. So what's your aspect on then boosting yourselves? One, so it's easy to give gyan and say, oh, let's be positive, EQ, EI. Somebody will say, just shut up and tell me how to do it. So what are the norms or what are the actionable aspects you would like to share, like a practical advice? What would you to our friends, viewers who are listening to this?
See, Manoj, this is fantastic because I believe that clarity precedes techniques. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Clarity is so powerful, and most motivational speakers, most people who give gyan of any sort, advisors, they tend to tell people what to do and how to do, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't really touch much on the clarity part of it. What do I mean by clarity? See, if you're in a dark room, and the lights are off, and you are told to walk 20 steps, then at that time one may need motivation or may need courage because you don't know what's going to happen. So we need to motivate ourselves, we need to tell ourselves everything will be okay. But if the light is on, we can easily see which is the right way to go, so we don't need all these things. So the more we
Mm-hmm.
understand, the better we'll be able to deal with the situation, even if we don't know
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen. So, for example, what you said, if we understand the nature of the mind is like Velcro, the sticky thing, the Velcro for negativity, and it's like satin for positivity. Whenever we
Can you
hear
repeat
something
that
positive,
again?
it goes away,
Helpful
it slips
for?
away. Satin,
Just
like
repeat.
satin for positivity.
Sure.
The mind is
Right.
like Velcro for negativity. So anything negative
Interesting.
tends to stick in the mind. Huh?
Yeah.
And
See,
anything
good
positive
point.
tends to be forgotten. So a friend who has been with you for a long time does one thing that hurts you a little bit, and then we remember that. No, we forget all the good things. So the mind is designed like that because the mind is created for survival. So we're constantly paranoid about the threats. And all these guys with their conspiracy theories and with all the negative, because negative news sells, startling news sells. So the first thing is to isolate yourself, and also have, it's not only social isolation but also mental isolation from negativity.
So are you
Also,
talking about your flight and fight response, the amygdala of the brain, which
that's
works
right.
on that?
That's right.
Fine,
That's
and
right. That's
work
right.
on
That's right.
that.
That's right.
Yeah, can you
So
share?
what I'm saying is the way to work on these natural things, whether it's the amygdala's response of fight and flight, or whether it is this Velcro nature of the mind, the way to do it is, I have a very powerful technique that I'd like to share with you also. We call it the metamind limbocortical technique. Now that's quite a mouthful, but basically what it says is that we have a limbic brain, which is at the back, the amygdala and everything, and we have the prefrontal cortex. Now, in the why we react from here and don't respond from here is because there is no pause between the stimulus and the response. So the suggestion
Mm-hmm.
is, in the question of how, is that whenever there is a fear that comes in, or whenever there's some negativity that comes in, we pause. If we increase the pause between the stimulus and the response, it is more likely that we'll be able to change that reaction into a logical response. And one of the ways to do that is to question ourselves, to move the mind into positivity. The other way to do that is to doubt every negativity. Uh, We tend to doubt the positives, but if we can start doubting the negatives, we will break them. So that's something
So
extremely,
interesting.
extremely powerful. I found that works.
But more practically, so that sounded little esoteric to me, but but because you are the guru of happiness and you train even the folks at the Dalai Lama thing. But in a normal way, I mean, from a very
What to do with it?
practical balance. So one is like you're talking about breathing, mindfulness. So can you share those actionable items, like now Eckhart Tolle in his book, which I've read millions of times, is like how you practice being in the now. And
Sure.
there is Vipassana activated, who is telling you to watch your breath. And then
Sure.
several. So, what are the aspects which we, our viewers, our friends, colleagues, can actually, as a takeaway, understand in terms of our actionable items?
So, one practical and actionable item. See, there are three things that will affect the emotions. One is words, the kind of words that we use. If we use
Mm-hmm.
positive word, if somebody asks us, "How are you?" we say, "Fantastic," it changes our physiology automatically. So,
True.
the language that we use, we should not even tell somebody else, "You're looking a little under the weather. What happened? Do you have corona?" Even jokingly or even out of concern, we should be very careful about the language that we use, whether to
Good.
ourselves or to other people. So, language or words is one thing we need to take charge of. The second
Mm-hmm.
thing is our physiology. The physiology or our biochemistry, which means, for example, motion creates emotion. Physiology
Sure.
affects psychology. So deep breathing, or any movement, even if we just get up, move, it will make a difference to our physiology, to our biochemistry. If we remain in the same place, if we keep our head down, if we do shallow breathing, we are bound to feel bad. If we look up, if
Mm-hmm.
we breathe in deep, and we move, it changes our physiology. So one is language, the second is
Mm-hmm.
physiology. The third is focus. Uh, What are we focusing on? And that's where those questions will come in mind. If you say, "Oh my God, I'm stuck here," can you focus on what is good? Like what you did. Can you focus on learning something which maybe only you know that you are not so good at? So if we change our focus, we change our language, and we change our physiology. These are three things. It's called the emotional triad. These are three things that can help us to change our negative feeling to positive in the moment. I found that
So
is
I have
very,
a
very
question here. So
yes.
excellent points, Avinash, and these are very practical points. What do you assign the importance of journaling? Like they say, you journal every day and you write down your thoughts. That is one of the cathartic method of feeling good. What are your views on journaling?
See, journaling is excellent for some people. For and If you have to journal everything that you're feeling, it's called paper therapy. No? It's like Freudian psychoanalysis. Instead of talking to somebody, just write down, write down, write down, write down, write down everything that comes to your mind. It's a great way to let it out, but it's very important that after that you don't read it. It's important that you take it and throw it away, because it's thoughts and feelings are basically regurgitation of all that you know, and it may not be very structured for many people. So if you're taking it out, it's best to get rid of it. For some other people, I would suggest that only journal your gratitude. For example, have a gratitude journal and write down all the things that you're grateful for that happened today, or all the grateful
So,
things, all the things that happen in your life. It's very, very
Avinash,
powerful.
actually took the words out of my mouth. My next point I was coming to was the importance of gratitude. And I'll give you a small example
Please.
and I will let you expound on that. Is like when I'm sitting with my daughters and they say, there are days I can see there are times in a day where one feels whatever we do drawn out, things like that, what's going on,
Mm.
and things like that. So at that time, I actually speak to them and say, friends, like, listen, we should feel so grateful. We are still living in a house. We have food on the table,
Absolutely.
and we're reasonably stocked up. And when we look at, unfortunately, the daily wagers and the other unfortunate guys who are struggling for a daily meal, so we should feel grateful. So, and I feel again that's where I would talk about gratitude point of view. And I know journals have been written and books have been written on gratitude, how it
Absolutely.
gives you well-being. Can you expand on that? Yeah.
See, it's been researched, and a lot of research has been done in the field of positive psychology, uh, and it's also common wisdom, that if we focus on, there've been these poems and these little stories about. I felt terrible about my not having new shoes until I saw a man with no feet. So this is a value that has been instilled in us from the ages. And gratitude helps us to focus the mind on something positive. Another thing that helps along with gratitude, it's in the same family, is appreciation. We used to have this movement which we created, Varsha created this many years ago, where we took these street children and so to see the smiles on their faces, and they went to the corporate houses and they did a little session for 5 minutes. And all they said was, okay, turn around to the people. And these kids, street kids, were doing the session. They said, turn around to your colleague and write down 5 things that you appreciate them about. So if we talk to our family members and we tell them that we appreciate them, we tell them that we love them, that is an extension of gratitude. And in about 5, 10 minutes, the entire energy of the place completely lights up. Okay? It feels so good. So instead of just keeping the gratitude within us or telling ourselves and feeling good, an extension of that would be also to share it with other people. Like you call your friends
So,
up, ask them,
yeah.
tell them how thankful you are.
Which brings me to another point of when I mentioned about social interaction and aspect of empathy. Now,
Uh-huh.
I'll just dive deeper into that. When
Please,
when
please.
we in these times, empathy is very important. And what I was reading, because I knew I'm going to speak to you and get into a deeper research, is that on the social intelligence aspect of that, we need to, as we decided, deeper connect on a deeper level and emotional level. And otherwise, as human beings, we are very self-centric.
Mm.
What's in it for me? How
Sure,
is it going to affect me? Would I have, blah blah blah, X, Y, Z. So the social intelligence aspect is also putting yourself in other person's shoes.
sure.
So can you explain that? I mean, make it more,
Yeah.
give some
So,
clarity on.
so this part is about being aware of others. We spoke about 4 things in emotional intelligence: being aware of
Yeah.
yourself, regulating your self emotions, being aware of other people. So, being aware of other people's emotions
Mm-hmm.
happens at a conscious level and also at a neurological or subconscious level. Each one of us has
Mm-hmm.
something called mirror neurons.
Correct.
This is one of the recent discoveries you may be aware of also, that the mirror
Mm-hmm.
neurons allow us to pick up signals from other people even without our sometimes being consciously aware of it. There's a very
Mm-hmm.
interesting research experiment that was done, that if a man and woman look into each other's eyes straight, uh, and usually this is for that man and woman who are single, if they look into each other's eyes straight, without wavering, there's a burst of dopamine that the other gets. And dopamine
Right.
is as good as getting a like on your social media for those people who like that, or getting a hit for those people who smoke cigarettes. So whether it's good or bad, dopamine gives a good feeling. Whether the habit is good or bad, dopamine is a little surge of happiness that we get. The thing is to get our dopamine from good things and not from the bad things. Like cigarettes or alcohol or all these things can also give dopamine hits. That's why people get
Correct.
addicted to it. So I found that there
Correct.
are two types of people. One is the people like you, Manoj. When we meet you, we feel fantastic. People feel fantastic because you give energy. Then there are other people who are psycho vampires. Moment you meet them, you wish you had not met them, or you tend to move away from that. So the key is first in you deciding who you want to be. Every individual, we have to become a little more aware of what is it that our words and our actions, what is the impact it is having on other people. Somebody asked me
Okay.
once, they said that, when parenting, how do you develop empathy in people, in kids? How do you develop
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence in kids? So,
Mm-hmm.
what I answered them was what I had heard from Daniel Goleman also, that kids by default have not developed their emotional intelligence. That's why they're
Mm-hmm.
kids. Kids take the moment they start becoming aware and sensitive, then they're no longer kids, or they are
Sure.
matured kids. We call them matured. So the idea of
Mm-hmm.
developing empathy is the ability to get out of yourself and think from the other person's point of view, which is not very easy. It takes a little practice. It takes that pause.
So, actually, I'll cross over on the other aspect, which I'm, probably more proficient on that subject of the social intelligence aspect, is
Yes,
taking a cue. What she was saying is,
sure,
then people that why are you called good with relationship people? You can use terms like networking, which I
sure.
now feel could be used in a different connotation, because networking also seems like you are an opportunistic guy. So I'm just giving a
Mhm.
kind of thing. So the way I look at it, when you build relationships, in the again, there is a line which is blurring, I feel, between the social intelligence, emotional intelligence, and of course that's another subject for the day, DQ, which is digital intelligence, which we'll talk about another time. And all of us are becoming more digitally intelligent by using Zoom, Facebook Live, and various other aspects to learn and adapt ourselves in this new normal. So what I was talking about is, in that sense, that when you touch upon that personal aspect of reaching out, so it's in giving that you receive. So the fundamentals now I'll talk about.
Absolutely.
So whether you're offline networking or building relationship or going to parties or you're going to business conferences, the fundamentals of human are the same. So
Absolutely.
typically what I tell everyone is, grab the intentional human beings intrinsically, and let's accept it as selfish human beings, right? And we are made that way, we are wired that way. So how do you, and it's part of learning, how do you rewire, how do you learn, how do you also understand the law of karma, and which I probably understood a while back, is that it's a giving that you receive, and the circle comes back. But again, you should not give from the perspective that you're going to receive. So the principle has to be, you should get up and every day feel, oh, how I can make a positive difference in somebody's life. And here, same principle can be applied when you're doing social distancing. So, for example, we get calls from, and I'll give you an example. There was one guy from UK who was stuck here and he did not know what to do. Now, I'll give a very interesting example. He's there, known as a family friend from London. He's here. Now, earlier people used to come from abroad, they used to welcome them. Now they're saying, oh, London say we don't want him. Does he has a problem or whatever? So you will not believe it. I had to make few calls and actually tell him to get tested because he stranded here, and bring him to a center so that he stays there. So that, because to self quarantine. But
Sure.
why I'm talking about this, I had to take that effort, make calls and do that. So does it help me in any way? No, but I love doing that for me. And I think for those who are listening, when you're doing for somebody without benefiting, okay, just to give an example, of my Rotary Club. I'm part of a very powerful Rotary Club called Queen's Necklace, Mumbai Queen's Necklace. I can tell you the amount of work our club is doing for feeding the daily workers and for job learner, wage earners, and all the tremendous. There is a collective effort as if it's a passion to help those. So much empathy here. I can see on my WhatsApp chat. There is so much contribution in terms of connecting the dots, talking in terms of working with ISKCON, Art of Living, on the food kitchens to seeing logistics, delivery, collection. So I can see that effort. And why is everybody doing that? Is because there is some kind of catharsis and some kind of feeling good factor. So just to bring it back to a relationship aspect, I feel today is the best time to actually cement one's relationship. Call people up, as I mentioned. Okay, listen to them. Call somebody's parents who are here, and your friends are an NRI sitting some part of the world. Tell them, uncle, auntie, is there something I can do for you? Do you require any medications which I can reach? Do they require any consultation? Do they require a
Absolutely.
second opinion? It's not about giving money or something like it's about being available. So
Sure.
people are scared. So again, the fundamentals in the offline and online world now, I would say online is the same, that reach out to people, connect. For those who are in the business aspect of it, I feel they should use LinkedIn very effectively, because LinkedIn is a great tool, is a great business tool for those who are wanting to understand how to wire, on a networking or relationship platform from a commercial standpoint. For many who have lost jobs, are looking at changing ways, and there are so much uncertainty happening, so many layoffs happening. LinkedIn is a great time for you to invest on LinkedIn, understand how it works. There are tutorials available for those who are not there. Reach out to people, write blogs, talk about your subject, try to proclaim or write about your subject matter expertise. So these are the times you can learn, share your views, and actually build more relationships. I mean, that's what I wanted to,
Yeah.
sorry, talk
No, I
about
think
more
that's
into.
fantastic. That's fantastic. So there's 2 points. One is about using this time to learn, and the other one is using this time to contribute, to give. Huh? And the best way to give is to
Absolutely.
express your natural talents and connect with people. That's fantastic. So interesting,
Absolutely.
interestingly, is they say the art of giving is the art of living, huh? And uh, from again from a psychology point of view, a neurology point of view, whenever we give, we feel connected to people, because love is of two types, huh? If you remove the physiological type, emotionally love is of two types. One is attachment. If we miss somebody when they're not there, that is one type of love. But the other type of love is when you feel that you want to care for somebody, and that caring for somebody is always expressed in the form of giving. So the real loving is by giving, and that's fantastic. And that gives us a boost of oxytocin. There was a question that was asked to Mother Teresa, that why do you give? Because you stand for giving. So she said that I give because I feel happy when I give. So even that gives, in the act of giving is the reward. As you said, the involvement is in the process, not in what you're going to get out of the process. That's fantastic. So similarly, like you said, the rules or the principles are the same, whether it is online or offline. Similarly, the principles of emotional intelligence or social intelligence are the same, whether there's a crisis situation or not. Huh? But the implementation may change. I don't know if you've seen the movie Manoj, Godfather, huh? Where you had,
Yeah, of course.
yeah, Vito Corleone. He had his consigliere. What do they call it? His assistant, his advisor, consigliere.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
But when Michael Corleone came on the scene, because there was a crisis situation, his father was killed, he changed his advisor, he changed the consigliere. Okay? So sometimes a crisis situation requires us to adapt. And that
Right.
adaptation, we have to not fight with that adaptation, huh? But we have to take it up, be responsible, and do what is required to do. There's a beautiful story. Can I share that with you, please?
Please,
Yeah.
please.
There's a story of this boat, which I shared a little recently in one of my sessions. There's a boat, a ferry boat, that wants to take people from one end of the river to the other, and they take money from each of the passengers to get on the boat. So one of the passengers gets on, and he's completely drunk. So he gets on, he picks his money, and he comes and sits on the boat. As the boat is halfway through the river, this passenger, this drunk guy, takes out a knife and starts making a hole at the bottom of the boat, chipping through the wood.
Mhm.
The other guys shouted at him. They said, "What's wrong with you, you crazy guy? You're going to drown us." He said, "Don't tell me what to do. I have paid the money
Mhm.
for my part of the boat, for my seat, and I'm doing it on my side." What he doesn't
Mhm.
realize is that there is no my side or your side. We're all in the same boat. So if one of
Mhm.
us doesn't do our job well, that could again create trouble for so many other people. So this is the
Mhm.
time for empathy. This is the time for giving. This is the time for learning. Absolutely right. I agree with you. Okay. Any other thoughts
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have?
And no, and also on a subject of like again, when I'm giving quality time with your family, friends, and so reaching out. Another aspect which came across is I don't know, but in a happiness in terms of so my daughters and we decided and had already decided that let's adapt minimalism. Minimalism. Now it is so
Minimalism.
minimalism.
Right.
So now, actually, when in the last few weeks we are at home, how many shirts have been changed and how many shorts we are probably in the same time and probably, rechanging and things like that. So we don't require the number
Some
of
of the
suits which we.
yes, on a lighter note, some of the people when they come for these video conferences, they're wearing the right shirt, but below they're wearing shorts, so that they get up at the wrong time. Uh,
Yeah, but so
It's
I'm not going to get up
it's
at the
real
wrong time. I'm
minimalism.
also very
No, no,
short
I'm
below.
joking. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
so,
Yeah,
so
you're right.
but
That's right.
so
We
I
can do
felt like
without so
again.
much.
So again, the sensitivity of knowing that listen, we are more fortunate also brings in the EI aspect of minimalism.
Absolutely.
That how much do
Absolutely.
you need? It's ultimately food in the kitchen, whatever X Y Z
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
month's time for our basic needs, and we
Yeah.
have to look beyond. So I think a lot of lessons to be learned, and and
Yeah.
I believe, and I think a video, I think on Netflix or something, there's a whole movie on minimalism. And is that going to be all forgotten after? That's my question. Nobody has the answer. After we get back and everything is normal, and there are all these lessons in terms of minimalism and being more, empathetic and others. So these are questions which I get on my Facebook timeline, and a lot of time,
Sure.
as human beings, we are hardwired to be selfish, self-centric. So I hope there are lessons for answers there. What are your views?
Yeah,
And
I
how do
hope
we
so
keep
too.
going?
There's a little disturbance in the voice. I hope so too, Manoj, because there are people in the time of a crisis, and once the crisis is over, what does the crisis do to them? Some people break somewhere internally, some people go back to their routine and they become what they were, and some people grow. I think it would be unfortunate if we don't all grow as a result of this, but that has to be a personal choice.
Right.
And I think that there is always a blessing hidden somewhere in every crisis situation. But it's up to us to know that and to remind ourselves. So, learning, connecting, I would say one more thing, laughing a little more. Huh? uh, Relaxing a little more, taking time out to really relax, to take care of our bodies, to take care of our minds, to take care of our mental hygiene also, to feed ourselves with positivity, and to see how much of a positive difference we can be to the people around us. Because these mirror neurons work in a very strange way. What they say is that if you are calm, and even if the other person around you tends to get agitated, if you continue remaining calm, the person who wins is the person who continues for the longer time. If you can continue remaining calm, your calmness will have an impact on the other person, and after a while, the other person cannot be agitated for long. In times of silence, even small sensations, like they say in Vipassana, why do they make us go there for 10 days and longer periods of time? Because that's when we cut out all other outside sensory inputs and we go deeper within. So if we can't go out of our house, let's go in ourselves. Let's take this
True.
time. When we do that, there may be our feelings may be magnified. So we have to be very careful not to magnify the negative feelings, uh, but to watch them, and allow them to dissipate. Don't take it out on other people and spoil the atmosphere. Because a lot of people tend to do that when they're in close proximity or when the mind is idle for too long. So it's about taking charge of the mind, and watching it, increasing the pause between the stimulus and the response, not getting angry, but watching the anger come out and letting it subside, doing the deep breathing, changing the language, asking the right questions, and being a positive battery charger for the people around, and having a good time.
Yeah, so in your wrap up thing, so I'll quickly wrap up my aspect
Sure,
of in
sure,
terms of social intelligence, which
sure,
means in various parlance is connecting, staying in touch
sure.
with people, relationship building. So I would like to recap and the key
Please,
positive
please, please
takeaways.
do. And do we have any questions also? We should look at those. Huh?
Yeah. I'm just looking at those
Sure.
questions, and there are more comments than questions, but I am
Okay,
going
good,
to.
good, good.
So,
Sure.
so one of the aspects, my key takeaway is reach out, pick up the phone, get away from the WhatsApp university, which we
That's right.
so-called call, and
Yeah.
that's just forward news. None of them are true or false. So get off from the WhatsApp university and the Twitterverse. Go there once in a while, listen, reach out to people, talk to them. When you listen, do empathetic listening, try to find out and reach out to relatives, friends. Don't only reach out because again you have a meaning and what's in it for me after that. Do it without a purpose or without an agenda.
Sure.
And again here it is, do it without an agenda. It's a feel good factor. Again, the principles of another aspect for those, and I was terrible at that earlier, is the art of remembering names. So whenever, so there's a good time to learn lessons on various aspects
Yeah,
which
yeah.
you
My
and
dad
how
loves that. Yeah.
connect with using your mind mapping or various tools available for remembering names. So now is a good time because name is the most important thing for a human being, which Dale Carnegie had mentioned in his
Yeah.
earlier book. He grew up learning how to win friends and influence people, and he also mentioned that when we are dealing with people, we are not dealing with creatures of logic, but with creatures of emotion. And
Absolutely.
in that is touch upon the emotional chord, connect at a deeper level, listen to people, find out what's going on. Is there a way you can help them? Another aspect is, so either you're a medical doctor or you're a psychologist or whatever your skill sets are, offer that available. If you're a
Sure.
lawyer and if somebody's in trouble, or I know a lot of people call me for medical help because I know a few doctors and hospitals. Somebody
Sure.
called me they said that his somebody he knows wanted to get a dialysis done at this time. Not
Hmm.
many hospitals are available. All I have to do is make a call and connect. So all of us who are listening,
Fantastic. Fantastic.
get out and say what is in it can. So I know a friend of mine, Kavita, who's probably watching us. Kavita Tejuja, she's doing a lot of baking and cooking classes and sharing all her
Lovely.
lovely
Lovely. Lovely.
everybody, empowering a lot
Lovely.
of women, and she's good. She's always been good at doing that, but now she's giving out to society. She's been a giver, but
Fantastic.
that
That's
all
fantastic.
these aspects what each one of us does. I
Yeah.
know people from again Rotary Club are giving out in terms of reaching out, feeding people.
Yeah.
There are various alliance members I know, and various social organizations who are giving out and reaching to the poor, downtrodden, and various aspects. So I think, in my terms, connection, giving out, reaching out to people, listening to them are my possibly, as I said again, principle is giving that we receive and build strong relationship. Be in touch with people. Call again 10 people if you can, or five if you can every day on the phone call. It feels good, and you have the time to listen. Don't get another thing which I'm seeing is every third person is getting into a Zoom call. Now that is again happening that whatever is going on, everybody's on some Zoom call or some online thing. So I think we will limit that activity because you've got
Sure.
a great time. So over to you, Avinash, before on a final note, in terms of what would be your final key takeaways for those who are listening and to get into a better frame of mind and be more positive.
Fantastic. Five things, just to summarize. Five things. The five things are language. three of them I mentioned earlier. We need to take charge of our language to keep our language positive, whether to ourselves or to
Mm-hmm.
anybody else. We need
Mm-hmm.
to take care of our biochemistry or our physiology and realize that motion creates
Mm-hmm.
emotion. So do some exercise, do
Mm-hmm.
some deep breathing, do some meditation to change our biochemistry. Then we need to change our focus. The way we change our focus
Mm-hmm.
is to ask ourselves some power questions like what's good about this? What can I learn from this? What should I do next? What's the
Mm-hmm.
best use of my time? These three,
Right.
besides these two more. One is interpretation. uh, when I say interpretation, I'm saying when things happen around us, as I said before,
Mm-hmm.
if we change the way we see things, the things we see will change. Uh, so even if somebody
Exactly.
around us is a little bit irritated, or even if we are feeling a little bit down, let's try to look at it from a more positive aspect, and don't blame the person, but in the environment, be aware of the environment, be sensitive of that individual, take care of the people around us. And the last one is please be a battery charger for the people around you through all the techniques that even Manoj has shared with you. Be a battery charger so when they look at you, when they see your name over there, they feel fantastic because it's a feeling. Finally, it's a transfer of emotions. So let's transfer the best emotions. For that, we need to feel good ourselves. One challenge, please, before we sign off, which I shared with you at Viba's party, if you remember. 7-day
Mm-hmm.
positive attitude diet is a challenge. Don't allow
Mm-hmm.
a single negative thought to come to your mind for 7 days. This is a different type of lockdown. It's going to give greater benefits. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Not a single negative thought we should allow to come into our minds. If a negative thought comes because it's a habit they've been coming for so long, we tell the negative thought, hey, come back after 7 days. No, I'm on a diet. And after 7 days,
Mm-hmm.
if you want, you can go back to that. But it's powerful things start happening. The brain architecture actually changes if we start taking control of our mind. What if the negative thought
Interesting.
comes? If the negative thought comes, you have 5 seconds to realize and change it into positive. Okay? And if you don't do that,
Very
from that moment onwards, your 7 days start again. And if your 7 days
good.
happen successfully, please contact Manoj or please contact me and tell us, and we
Yeah.
will congratulate you.
And on that, because you mentioned about Viva, there are two more people. Again, let me use my networking and my
Lovely, lovely.
social skills, so far intelligence. Two people I would like to again, mention because we have a wide audience. So there is a friend of mine, Josh. We all know Josh.
Yes,
You know Josh.
of course.
He's
Wonderful
a
singer. Yeah.
singer. So one of the things he mentioned, Manoj, what do I do singing? I live on concerts, and my daily kind of mindset is on concerts, and
Right.
suddenly this is a new normal. So what
Yeah.
actually me and Vibha a lot to him, and he's actually started taking singing lessons on Zoom, and he's
Fantastic.
actually doing a virtual concert for Vibha's dad, who's celebrating his birthday soon. So that was an
Brilliant.
opportunity, again, opportunity for somebody who's a singer and who does loves music. And honestly,
Brilliant.
to be, I've volunteered to be one of his students to learn singing in Hindi, which has been my like a bathroom singing dream to see that
I
ek
think that's
gana to
fantastic. I
gayenge.
look for some students for him too. That's fantastic. Oh, Manoj would be great. We should do a singing session sometime on this, huh?
Yeah. And one more aspect talking about Vibha. Vibha, though, and she's runs this company called Reach IV, and so
That's
she's
right.
been doing a lot of educational seminars on Insta and other things, and also
She's
sharing
fantastic.
a lot of knowledge and wisdom, which is
Yeah,
very strong on
sure.
how you adjust to new normals because students, parents are worried. So,
Yeah.
on that note, Avinash, lovely to have you, and thank you
Thank you
once
very
again,
much.
everybody for coming in. I hope
Thanks
we
a
didn't
lot.
bore you. And we hope it was the session was useful, adaptable. Happy to get your questions even offline. You can send us messages if they're decent ones on the timeline, or if there are tough ones, just private message. We are here to learn, adapt, and hopefully, Avinash, this was a great conversation, and
Yeah, it
hope
was
we can
fun.
do one
Look forward
soon
to it.
and
Yeah, it's good fun.
delve into other aspects which we can
Sure.
touch upon, considering the limitations of
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
And
It's
as
difficult.
they
It's
say,
very difficult. It's a very difficult medium for me. I'm getting used to it because the key message is adapt, right? So we're adapting.
yeah,
See, dinosaurs became extinct. Human beings survived because they adapted. And now with all our creativity, we're adapting,
yeah,
we're learning, and we're doing great. So I think it'll be fantastic. Okay. Thank you very much. Had a
yeah.
great time.
So lovely once again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Avinash, and thank you
Thanks.
for all of you for coming from various parts of the
Thank
world
you.
and
Thank you
being
to
there.
everybody.
Thank you. Really appreciate
Thanks a
your
lot.
time and bye bye. Cheers.
Bye.